Coming into summer, it's much harder to look after the trails as they've dried hard. Even though we've had a little bit of rain on Aston Hill over the last couple of days, I still wouldn't really want to be digging into the trail here and disturbing this well-baked surface. It's going to be much harder to stick together than it is in the winter months. So what I'm looking at is how I can come up and maintain some of the trails that we've got. This time of year, the trail corridor narrows up and sight lines get a lot harder to see through. What we're talking about is the canopy of the trees growing down, shielding the track from us looking through, and the stinging nettles growing up around the edge of the trail. On the edge here you can see it's not so tall, but as it goes through, the taller nettles just block that sight line, just slowing things down. Not critical at this stage in the track, but a bit further down when the speed comes up can make a really big difference. If you're riding somewhere where there's a lot of other riders out with you and you're sharing the trail with other users, those sight lines are critical, particularly if you're on a bridleway or a busy footpath. Just spending 5 minutes coming out and just clearing down the brash, just knocking that down, knocking the edge back, can make all the difference. You might notice this month that I've got a new tool. This is a mcleod. Basically it's 3 tools in one, or maybe more. I've got a cutting edge, a packing edge and a raking edge. And what I can do with this is really, rather than having to carry around my mattock, my spade and my rake, I've got them all in one. This tool picked up from a friend Clive up in Scotland. They use them a lot up there maintaining and building the Seven Stains, and they've got someone up there that makes them specially. So I'm pretty lucky to have one down here, down south, and it makes life a lot easier. So we'll see how Tool of the Month gets on when we're out on the trails a bit later on. The great thing about maintenance at this time of year is it doesn't take very long. Just to cut the brash back in here, cut back the stinging nettles and expose the trail line and keep the sight lines open, probably taking me about 10 minutes. But what I've got is a much clearer trail. Again, just increases that speed slightly so you're loving it in the summer time. And again, the trail just has a little bit more light in here. It'll just dry out that little bit quicker. All round, just a little bit of maintenance, a stitching time saves 9, and the trail's running well for a few more weeks. So we've cleared the trail back, everything's set now. We've got a nice tread running through the middle and the cleared brash off either side. What we're looking to do is to give ourselves a little bit of width here. Opens up the trail, just means that if these bushes grow back up over the next few months, they're not going to blow over in the wind or fall over under their own weight and start to cover the trail. What we've also done with that in mind is we've just taken back and done a little bit of pruning on the trees, just to take those branches up a little bit higher. When the leaves come out in full bloom at this time of year, they just weigh a little bit more, and that can pull them down into the trail, again closing out those sight lines. So all the time we're thinking about what might affect the sight line of the rider, or worse still, be whipping the rider on the way round. We want to make sure they have a really fun experience, can enjoy the trail without thinking about where they're going and what they're doing, just enjoying the trail and whizzing down it. As we were looking at with the single track, what we don't want to do here is start breaking up the trail surface. Weeks of dry weather have set that like concrete, and the last thing I really want to do is start digging into it. So at this time of year, if I want to do a bit of maintenance, what I'm going to be doing is just taking out all these loose rocks on the inside of the corner here. Over the time, especially with the dry weather, they've been pulled up out of the trail and just been carried down to lie in the bottom of the corner. Eventually that will push the riding line a little bit higher up the turn and just make it a little bit harder for riders to come round, and obviously if they hit the rocks that can throw them offline and really unsettle them. We want a few rocks there. After all, as we've seen with all of this series, this is mountain biking, but by just taking them out at this time of year, I just save myself a bit of work later on. A little bit of preventative maintenance, if you like, just makes it work a whole lot better for the rest of the season. So the job's starting to take shape. We're pulling all the material on the inside of the corner down out of it, working with gravity to make the job a little bit easier. Got a nice pile here of leaf mulch and little rocks and bits and pieces we've pulled out. The key thing is just to keep on working with this gradient. So the berm's going to stay nice and smooth. And you can see how the riding line's going to open up again a little bit. Fast riders, yes, they're going to be up on the high side, but someone coming in a little bit slower isn't forced onto that line if they don't want to be. Also, they can open up this line a little bit more, maybe play around with their line choice and have a little bit more fun coming into this section. This section's really come together. As I said, we don't want to disturb this hard packed ground here. This has taken months to bake off like this. Digging into here would just be a disaster. I'd be trying to repack it all afternoon. So at this time of year I'm just cutting off a tiny top layer of the dust and the rocks, which gives us this berm. It's cut back in now, the riding line's much more obvious, and as riders come down they're not worrying too much about hitting this flat out. They've got good grip and the rocks on the inside are gone for a few more months. This time of year it's all about that preventative maintenance. If we can get in, clear the rocks out, come the winter they won't all get the mud in them and set rock hard. This might need a little bit of work come the winter time just to dig it that little bit deeper and get the shape back properly, but right now anyone coming down the hill is going to love this corner and be flat out through it. This time we're looking at more of a single track trail. So the last section a little bit wider, a bit more speed into it. This time a little bit tighter, a little bit less speed, but no less rocks. All of these rocks have been carried down from higher up on the track and they've ended up here in the corner. Again, this time of year the last thing we really want to be doing is digging up that hard packed, really consolidated trail. What we want to be doing is just clearing out these rocks on the inside and just doing a little bit of work through here just to make sure the track's in great shape. It's really all about that preventative maintenance, making sure that we've done a little bit of work now that will save us some time later on in the year and just keep the track running sweet for those people coming down it. This corner's looking a whole lot better. We've taken out the rocks on the inside of the turn. We've created a little bit of a rolling grade dip at the bottom here. Even though it's summer, water management is still key. What we don't want to do is neglect the water management and end up with puddles. This time of year it's going to carry all the dust and sediment that I haven't been able to get up down the trail. It's just going to sit at the bottom of the corner. Not great for when a rider comes round flat out. But as it looks at the moment, the berm's back, the rocks have gone. We've pushed all the rocks away, and then what we've done is come back and use that technique we looked at earlier of camouflaging back to the edge of the trail. So a rider coming round here doesn't have their concentration distracted by the rocks and stuff that we've moved out of the way. Just defines the trail, makes it so this section coming in can be ridden flat out. You can hang it out around this corner and then off down over the trail. What we've looked at today are 3 or 4 very simple techniques that are quick. This time of year it could be warm out there. We don't want to be walking around spending all day working our backsides off on the trail. We want to be getting out and getting riding. That's what the summer's all about. But a little bit of time spent on the trail. This section here took me about 10 minutes to clear out and get to this state. Just saves us a whole lot of hassle later on in the year when we're looking after our trails. It also makes the trail look a lot better and ride a lot better for the summer months when, as I say, it's all about getting out there and getting out on the bike and riding the thing.